Hello and welcome to the More Cheese Less Whiskers podcast. My name is Dean Jackson, and today we have a very special episode. The very first guest ever on the More Cheese Less Whiskers podcast was Jim Hacking, a lawyer, immigration lawyer, and we talked then about using a book to identify his best prospects, people who were looking to immigrate to America, and the big opportunities that he has in really tapping into building a list of people who are on that path. Now, 5 years later, today we're bringing back a new season of the More Cheese Less Whiskers podcast, and we're doing it by video. And our very first guest is Jim Hacking. And so we had a great conversation. We talked about the tremendous growth in his business from when we first talked, and we moved into talking about the big opportunity that he has in his after unit. Now, he's really dialed in the before unit, so he's got an amazing machine that continues to bring new business for them. But now we talked about rolling that over and looking at the big opportunity in the after unit. So I think you're going to really enjoy this episode. Of course, you can listen by audio on iTunes and Spotify and everywhere that podcasts are distributed, or you can watch the video now on YouTube or now on morecheeselesswhiskers.com. So there we go. Let's get right into it. And we're here. We're live.
How about
Look
that?
at us. Counselor, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you too, Gene. How you been?
I'm good. So this is a new era, restarting a new series of the More Cheese Less Whiskers podcast, now in Technicolor. And I think it's exciting to have you as the very first guest on the new video format, because you were the first guest ever on the More Cheese Less Whiskers podcast. So Counselor James Hacking, Esquire.
I'm excited to be here, Dean. You know, I've been missing the show. I was asking Stuart where the show was, and so I'm glad that it's back. I was still
We were in Seinfeld reruns, when you got 200 episodes or something, when we went into COVID, we were able to go into syndication, as they say, and but now I missed it, and it's people who were regular listeners, it was good for people to get the reviews and stuff, review old episodes, or not everybody had really listened to every episode, so it was a good chance for them to catch up. But I'm excited to be back. I think this is going to be a nice format. We're going to do it so we can have the video, but it's also primarily audio. There's no real visual trick. So if you're listening on the podcast feed, you're not missing anything except the devastating handsomeness of our guests and me and our backgrounds. But anyway, there we have it. So what's the recap here? I'd love to kind of see what's happened since the first time we recorded and what we're going to advance or talk about today.
So that was about 6 years ago. Yeah, the firm has really grown. As of now, we've grown from the one little office with about, probably when you and I talked, we probably had about 8 or 9 employees. Now we have 3 offices, and we have about 45 team members.
Look at you. That's awesome.
Yeah. We have a big team down in Argentina, which is a big chunk of our group, and they're great to work with. And I was talking to them the other day. There's a couple things going on that I wanted to run past you that I thought would make for good topics for the show. One was, here in St. Louis, we have a refugee resettlement organization called the International Institute, and their big fundraiser and their big thing every year is this thing called the Festival of Nations. Literally 100,000 people come to it over 2 days.
Wow.
And so we're going to have a booth at the Festival of Nations. And so I want to give away golden tickets. So I want to talk to you about that. And then also we're thinking about hiring someone to be a full-time after unit person.
I like the idea.
Yeah. And so I want to talk sort of logistically and mindset, those two things. So everyone at the office is freaked out about the golden ticket. And, one question is, how many do we print up if there's going to be 100,000 people over 2 days? But I mean, this is clearly our target market because we are immigration lawyers. People, everyone that comes to this thing are going to be people who at least like immigrant food, if not love immigrants. So, and that I'll be at the booth a couple of times, but we're going to have 2 people in the booth all day. We're going to give away an iPad with a QR code so that we can capture email addresses and stuff. But the golden ticket is something that people are sort of having a hard time getting their mind around. So I knew to go back to the source, and I asked Stuart if you had anything in particular that was recorded on the golden ticket. And I know it's such a great concept that I thought we could talk about that, and then that after unit piece too.
Okay. Well, it's all very exciting. I mean, I recall that I remember us talking about your after unit as a major thing and what an impact you're making in the family tree of people. You're generationally impacting entire lineages because great grandpa made the journey over to America thanks to Jim Hacking and the team, and then everybody else came, and that whole new thing. It's like such an amazing, I have such reverence for what you're able to do because it's such an impactful thing. And I'm sure that you're probably the most significant non-family member of their family. And that, I think, it lends itself to really having an ongoing relationship with people. And their whole family, all their family and friends and the people who, knew them, their inner circle back in their home country, are really any of them that are going to want to come to America are going to have to tap into somebody who's made the journey. It's such an amazing opportunity. So how does it work right now? Let's talk about maybe how do you measure your after unit right now, and being, for people listening but not as familiar with that concept, we'll talk about the after unit is the unit of your business that nurtures lifetime relationships with the people who already know you, like you, trust you, you've already done business with them, and to do more business with them and to orchestrate referrals from them. And so the measurement that we have for the after unit is your return on relationship. That's what we call it. So, and we take that, the rough measurement would be the amount of business that comes from the people who you've already done business with or referrals from that group on an annual basis. So we look at that either in a rolling 12 months or year over year. And so do you have a active metric for that sense of how much of your business is coming from after unit?
Yeah, I do. And right now it's at about 8%. So we're a lot more drilled in than we were before. The thing is, we do spend a lot of our resources on bringing in new people to the top of the funnel. And right now we have, I mean, I don't know of many other law firms. My team was teasing me the other day. We have 18 people that work in our before unit. We even have a full-time lawyer now. All he does is talk to leads. He doesn't practice law. He just talks to leads. So we've devoted a ton of resources to the before unit, right? Yeah. And we're signing up about 25 cases a week, and we're happy with that. Of the cases that we're signing up, the one thing that you always pointed out, which is so smart and great, is that we're in this like virtuous cycle. So if I help someone get a work visa, then I can help them get a green card, then I can help them get their citizenship. Yeah. And so that's been great. But we have that, and as I've pointed out to you in the past, we have the exclusive relationship with them after this. And we're the only person on earth who knows the date they're eligible for their next immigration benefit other than them.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you look at that when you said 8%, if we talk about your after unit there, what are you saying that 8% is relative to? Because with two ways that we could interpret that. Our measurement is not what percentage of your business comes from your after unit, but what that percentage would be relative to the number of people in your after unit. So we would say if you've got how many clients do you have that you've helped get some level of either a visa or a green card or anything that they're on, you've handled a matter for them, and how much to the number of people was it? So if you had 100 people, and if you were saying an 8%, this is how I would interpret this, an 8% return on relationship would be that 8 of those 100 people either did more business with you or referred somebody. So how are you interpreting, what are you saying that 8% is?
So that was the former thing that you said. So I was talking more about the 8% being of our overall business. But
8% of your overall business, right?
to your point, I would say that probably around 50% of people. It's been surprisingly hard, Dean, to, from a software perspective, keep track of when all those benefits are. And like, the other people in the marketing department are so busy doing the marketing stuff that we haven't really spent the time or the money to really build out a system so that if Dean Jackson got his green card on January 8th, 2018, that 5 years later, we're talking to Dean, we're calling Dean, we're emailing Dean. We've played around with it, but we haven't devoted the resources to it.
That's the truth. That's the reality right there, that there's the thing at the level that you have dedicated resource and people to the before unit, is there's that opportunity in the after unit. Now, if we just did a quick math, like how many people would there be that would qualify for, being part of your after unit? And so that would include every person who's, living here that you've helped get here.
So
at whatever level they're at, whether it's on a visa or a green card or citizenship, whatever it is.
If we look at the last 5 years, we've gone up about 100 cases each of the last 5 years. So 600, 700, that's 1,300, 2,100, 3,000, 4,000 people. So that over the last 5 years, that'd be 4,000 people.
Okay. So now what I'm looking at, that's the domain here of our after unit, right? That 4,000 people. What we're looking for now is what amount of traction or revenue or new business or referrals can we generate from that group of 4,000 people, as if it was the only business. Like when you treat your before unit like it's brand new, it's a distinct thing and it's a supplier to your during unit, right? And you keep your during unit people separate from the before unit. They're not getting caught up in having to, generate leads or nurture leads or do anything like that. You deliver your during unit machine is about opening matters and getting them settled, right? That's the thing. So all of that while that people are in that during unit with an open matter is you've got lawyers and support staff and people and systems and processes that all keep that machine running efficiently and profitably, right? Then the after unit, now you've got 4,000 people who are living in the United States because of something that you did to help them get there. Now, all of those people, those 4,000 people, let's just say their top 100, let's just say there are 100 people that they know, now we're talking about, would that be 40,000 people we're talking about, right?
100 would be 400,000.
400,000 people is the potential reach of their inner circle, right back in the country where they came from, whether it's family or whether it's friends, acquaintances, business associates, people that they know, extended family. All of those people, they're there. In many cases, they may be the only person they know in America who's made it successfully, right?
Right.
And so when you look at it, boy, the opportunity there to really deepen that relationship is tremendous. And so I would really look at, how you could set that up so that somebody, is driving the after unit. Somebody is not getting caught up in the before unit. You can certainly use and filter people into the conversion engine of the before unit stuff, like to generate the leads in the after unit and put them into your conversion engine, the educating and motivating part of it, but who is managing those relationships. If you really kind of look at it and say, how now you start to look at all the distinctions of this. How many of the 4,000 that you have would be at the first level? They're here on a visa. How many of them are currently under a visa that expires and will need to be either renewed or converted to a green card? And then how many people are at the green card level that are eligible or seeking to move towards citizenship?
Right.
And that distinctions, when you start like layering the different possibilities there of where you're just advancing people along that timeline, or the number of people who have family back wherever they're coming from that want to come over here, and what that level of, what the plan is for those. If you kind of look at each, I look at it as like, we talked about this idea of under management and having the right word for what that could be, whether it's, citizenships under management or citizen track or visas under management, or when you look at it that you're taking on, that when the matter closes, that's just the opening of the relationship now, right? That many times, and I suspect that there's some level of that right now where once you're really strong on the before unit, getting people in, you're opening 100 new cases or more a year in the before unit.
Yeah, right.
1,000 a year, yeah, in the before unit. And that probably on the during unit, there's a little element of, once the matter closes, that's sort of now going into an after unit that's less robustly managed than your before unit. And now with 4,000 people, that's, I think, that's a big opportunity. That if you calculate out what our kind of, so you establish a metric for it. When you look at, because every business is kind of different, what's the cadence of something, but generally, if you look at, set a reasonable expectation that a 20% annual yield on that would be that of the 4,000 people, that we could generate 800 opportunities there.
And that's
right.
The average case value is around 5,000. So
Okay.
Now we're
4
talking
million.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you look at it, that's almost the level that your before unit is generating.
Yeah.
And right. So you look at it that with that person, is it reasonable to think how, let's just like unpack what that 20% is when I talk about that if you were to take one of those people and nurture a relationship with them, would it be reasonable that they would open one more matter or refer one person in the next 5 years?
Yeah. I mean,
That's a reasonable.
Yeah. I mean, our bread and butter is, Dean just got married and Dean wants to bring his wife over, or bring is here and wants to get her green card. That's bread and butter. And so that all those people are most of those people are eventually going to apply for citizenship. So almost at least one. There's other people that we get earlier in the stage that could do 1, 2, or 3, but yeah.
So you look at it and you think that if right now, if you were to say that 8%, what's the dollar amount of revenue that the after unit would generate right now, if you were to just ballpark it?
Well, 6% of 4 million would be what, 240,000?
Okay. So 6%, and you said 8% of total, so 320, you say?
Yeah.
That's right. So if we look at that and we did if it was 20% of the people, 800 times 5,000, 4 million, minus the 300,000 that you're doing right now,
Right.
if we take our Gamal Aziz approach of working backwards, you could argue that you are losing $3.7 million right now by not having a robust after unit to match your before unit.
I'm always happy to talk to you, but then I'm also always sad because
Right. But the good news is it's a great investment, because what do you do right now with your after unit? If we were to say, of the 8% that did come from that, how does it generally happen? Do they call you up and say, hey, you helped me get a visa, I want to get a green card, or you help me get over here, I want to bring my cousin or my family or my parents or my brother and sister or my friend, they want to come over? Is it, or you maybe get calls from someone else, the direct client, saying, hey, you helped my friend get his visa and he told me you could help me, can you help me? Those are probably the big categories of how it happens.
Yeah, that, and the only other one I would add, I mean, so much of what I do is from you. The only other one I would add would be the flagship email that people say, oh, Jim, I've been meaning to call you. I got your email on Monday. I got this guy down the street who has the same problem I had.
So you're putting everybody's getting the same emails. You're talking about those as your conversion emails as well, right? So
yeah, I would say that it's certainly not orchestrated, to use your word. It's sort of random.
And that's where the opportunity is. That's what I'm trying to say to you. So if we were to isolate the activities, resource, and manpower that you have dedicated to your after unit, what would it I mean, do you send anything physically to them over the course of the year? Do you do any mailing to the 4,000?
No.
No. Well, I mean, what else would you spend money on? There's no way.
Like if people we're starting to get some merchant stuff, some stuff to give to clients, especially when they get their citizenship, like to make more of a big deal about that, because that's a big deal for them, and we could do mailers for that. Or no, we don't.
But I would put that in, if you're helping them get their citizenship, they've paid you on some level for that, right? Like that.
Yeah.
So
there's something special.
So it's the during unit that the gift giving or the celebration is the end of the during unit process there. So I would attribute that spend to a during unit.
So you've given me a lot of great gifts over the years with all of your wisdom. The greatest one of all, which the during unit still complains about, is breaking that connection between the before unit and the during.
Yeah.
That was a fundamental mindset shift. That's why we have an attorney and a half who all they do is sign up cases. They don't have to do the work that they sign up.
Right.
That was life-changing for our whole firm. So I guess what you're saying is that we need to sort of have a similar break. And like you said at the top of the call, thinking of the after unit as its own business that has its own responsibilities to deliver future.
Yeah. And guess what you've got right now? You've got 4,000 people who are, citizenships under management or residencies under management or visas under management. You've got 4,000 people that know you, like you, trust you, and have every intention that they will take the next step in the journey with you. So I don't think this is something where you almost can't lose on that, that when you look at, if you were to think about, okay, what do we need to do to nurture those relationships, and how could we orchestrate referrals in that? So I wonder, if you think about almost like an internal type of newsletter type of thing, or something where you are celebrating all of the new people who are coming into the family, like that's a big deal when people get their citizenship. Like that's a pretty amazing thing. If that's the ultimate, that's kind of the end of the personal journey for somebody, is they got their citizenship and they celebrate that, and it's maybe been years from the time they got their first visa or came to school, and then they stay, and then they get a green card, and then they get citizenship. That's a big celebration. How many people, if we were to just like roughly think about the 4,000, and we were put them into three categories of they're here on a visa, they're here on a green card, and they've achieved citizenship, how would that break down?
That's a good question, because our 10-year big, hairy, audacious goal is to help 10,000 people get their citizenship. Right now we're at 635, and I know that about 300 of them have been in the last 5 years. So,
Okay.
so you know,
Just think about that opportunity right there. There are 3,700 people who are not yet citizens, right? That are either at green card or visa level.
well, and the other fun thing is, like, the other day I helped a couple get their citizenship, and they immediately turned around and hired us to bring their mom and dad to the
Yeah,
United
right. That's the whole thing. Exactly.
Right.
You look at that and that's a big thing. And so I look at that and I see nothing but opportunity, because you've really, there's that business is yours for the taking. There's no need or for anybody to go anywhere else if they felt like
Well, I like that phrase you're using. I don't know that I've heard you talk about it before, or maybe we talked about it before, the under management. Can you, I mean, I think I understand, is it,
yeah,
hey,
like this is part of
it's assumed that later on we're going to be working together again 3 years from now. See you in a bit.
Yeah, I think that people often don't take their incumbency seriously enough. That when you have, like, I've used this same, I had a conversation with an electrician who owns an electric company, and we talked about the idea of panels under management. That he's got once you go in and do anything for anybody, it's like you're planting your flag there, and their electrical panel is now, you're the incumbent provider of electric services for them, right? So whenever anything goes wrong, or whenever, part of it is an intake process of looking to the future. Like if you go to a dentist and they take x-rays and they do their exam and they do all of this stuff. What the dentist will do is they'll lay out the full plan to perfect your mouth or whatever, right? Like they'll say, well, these are on the way. You need to look at this. You're probably going to have to get your wisdom teeth out. We may have to do some, they outline this perfect plan of everything that could be possible and present that to you as, do you want to go ahead and get that all handled? Or progressively, we can work on those things over the next little while, just so you know what's coming, right? So when you intake somebody, if you're helping them get a visa, that when your intake process looks at this situation, and you kind of in conversation asking them about their family, about their intentions. Are they looking to seek citizenship? Do you think your family is going to want to come over here? Is looking at the scope kind of thing of what's possible, right? If you build a little profile as part of your during unit interaction with people, that they leave the during unit with the initial matter settled and a scope of what the potential going forward is, that whatever their names are, that where they've come from, whatever would be searchable kind of thing, right? Whatever you might be useful. What country did they come from? What city were they there? So you're starting to look for opportunities to orchestrate and to be what I call being a market maker, where you start to look at things of, if somebody from another town is coming on the thing, you may be able to introduce, or someone from the same town is coming over. They may know them, or they may, and I don't know what I may be saying something that you're not allowed to do. You may not be able
Well,
to suggest
that's totally okay, and that totally happens. I think I might have told you before that early on in my career, I helped a young guy bring his wife over from Zako in northern Iraq, in the Kurdish part of Iraq, and then I ended up doing like 20 spouse cases from Zako. So you're right, it can go on that granular of a level.
Right. And that's where, when you look at, I think that the big opportunities are to look at the transition between the during unit into the after unit, and have this idea of, while the during unit is happening, that you are establishing the opportunity in the after unit, but also measuring how many of things you can advance while they're under that bubble of the during unit. So somebody opens a matter about getting a visa. How long does that take to go through the process?
18 months.
18 months it takes to get that visa. How many interactions would you have with them in that period of time?
A bunch at the beginning, a bunch at the end, and then
Yeah.
just sort of checking in with their paralegal.
Status in the middle. Yeah, status in the middle of things. Okay. And so one of the metrics that we look at is a multiplier. So I would look at it and say, and establish, what is our matter multiplier index? What's our MMI? And if you look at an MMI as we've initiated this matter of the citizenship, we've got an 18-month during unit window with these people. How many additional opportunities can we, start because of our relationship with these people, right? And if it's 18 months, I would look at, like, when you typically, is there a finale to, like, the day the visa is issued? Would you consider that matter closed, kind of thing? Is that
I would, but if you're looking for the finale, is when the wife goes to the airport and comes to America and lands here, and we've had clients send us pictures or even video of that moment because they were so excited.
Yes. Right. Yeah. So they get that, and then it's a period of time when they come. So I would say that if you were to think about extending your during unit to include the first 30, 60, 90 days of them being in America, that, or being under approved or whatever in that thing, you're doing things that are not necessarily, that you're not being paid for, because they paid you to get to the point where the visa was approved. Your job is done then, really.
Right.
But if you were to initiate this situation of the 30, 60, 90 days after that matter is technically closed, you're going to cement your now relationship with those people.
I think you talked before about sort of, when the sellers or the buyer's agents put someone in a new house, they sort of give them a gift, or they send them, here's the neighborhood info, stuff like that.
Yeah. All of that. However, you're going to cement your, you're taking it beyond that. You're demonstrating, I'm not just do the paperwork and bill them and on to the next matter, that now you truly are an advocate, because maybe they've got needs and transitional things that they're going to need to have an advocate in those things, or somebody who's just helpful and concerned about their transition and integration. That if you're doing that kind of thing, because who are they going to be the most, immediately, everybody, it's going to be ripples across the oceans to their inner circle, is going to know that this person, they just got their citizenship, and it's going to reverberate all through that. If another one made it, kind of thing. And in those, so when you look at what we're trying to do, is we're trying from that moment all the way through, from the during and the after unit, to orchestrate referrals. And all of those referrals, when we talk about the mechanics of how they happen, are all because of conversation. So people are in conversation, and they have to notice that the conversation is about immigration or visa or citizenship or green cards, anything to do with what you help people do. They have to think about you, and they have to introduce you to the person that they had the conversation with. So at periods of time when the conversation is high, the moment somebody applies for citizenship. Did you hear about Ahmed? They're applying for citizenship.
Right.
Oh, they're going to America. They're going to try and do this. Now, everybody's buzz. Did you hear about Ahmed? Did you hear about Ahmed? All of these conversations are going on, right?
Right.
And
Right.
if you're not part of that equation, they may be having those conversations. They're not thinking of you, and they're not introducing you to the people that they had those conversations with. That if you look at the thing, it's like I love the title of your book that we did with you, Staying Here. What settles it up, right? That I think that if you look at it, that there's only three real things. It's getting here, staying here, and bringing everybody else here. I mean, those are the three. You should have that series
You're
of
right.
books, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Dean, I mean, my mind is blown, as it often is when I talk to you. I'm a little bit sad and crying in my beer, even though I don't drink beer, but you know what I mean. And you had mentioned, like, do I send things to that after? What were some things that you're thinking? Are you thinking a newsletter? Are you thinking a postcard? What do you
I
think?
think a postcard, like you just look at it, that right now, how could you go wrong when you start to look at the
4,000.
you look at the 4,000, and you look at the lifetime value, you look at collectively that group, right? So if you were to say, let's just say that you took 1,000 of them just to test this idea, right? That you take 1,000 and you spend $1,000 a month to send a postcard to every one of those people, that is like the gateway to a bigger, multimedia or a PDF type of thing with a QR code and the cover article, and here's what's inside this month's. If you think about creating content for new people coming to America, like almost like if you were to think of it as a media type of thing, right? Where you're celebrating the people who've come to America. You're telling the story, you're telling immigrant stories, you're telling about the people they came to America 5 years ago, and now they own this thriving business, and they've brought their whole family there. If you're motivating people, you're highlighting, you're, doing that as a vehicle. That's really what it is, right? Is a vehicle to be in front of the people, littered throughout with your opportunities, like super signature type of things to offer, with your book offers, with your things. That's going to presence their mind to whenever they're in a conversation about somebody wanting to come there, that they can call you and get a copy of the book of Not Staying Here, but Getting Here.
Right.
Or, like someone coming to America as the thing, that would be a very useful thing for people.
Yeah.
So that now when they have those conversations, now they know that they can call you and give that book to somebody too.
Awesome.
I just think, man, that's such a great opportunity. If you think about a $12,000 investment and some resource of time and energy to create it, but you think about, is that going to increase the matters that you open up? I mean, it seems inconceivable that it wouldn't
for
have
sure
a huge ROI. And you're already ahead of the game. You already owe that group this level kind of thing. When you look at it, it's going to be the high value ROI.
It's awesome. Can we shift gears for a minute just to talk about the ticket? Because my marketing team is dying to hear what
All right.
and how it even works. So they've worked up a mock-up and it looks sort of fun, but what we're offering people, I think I have it right, is $500.
Okay.
It's transferable. If they hire us to do any kind of immigration case, it's like cash. It's $500. They can even give it to a friend if they want. It's $500, as long as it's the kind of case that we handle. Like, we're not going to go do a car accident form or something.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So am I thinking of that correctly? And how should we think about using that at the Festival of Nations?
So at the Festival of Nations, when you're around there, I think that golden ticket, that's kind of where I've been calling that golden ticket thing. But often we've been thinking about the golden ticket as something where you've got an opportunity to do something on a recurring basis. So that we used the golden ticket with Mosquito Authority was offering a free mosquito treatment. So somebody
Right.
can get an experience of that for free. And what you're talking about as a gift card, which is a great idea. So you're talking about that's something that's going to be maybe 10% of what to put towards something, but there's no inherent value in it.
That's
Uh,
true.
that
So
there's just, if you look about that, if you were to frame that as a consultation or something that they could use and be advantaged, if you could put a frame on that, that's a $500 consultation or something, regardless, that they don't have to spend any money to use to redeem. That's kind of a
so many lawyers say free consultation, and most immigration lawyers don't charge for consultations. And
right.
yeah, I understand. Okay, so you're right. I'd forgotten about that, that it was just a flat. I mean, I know you wanted it to be as attractive as possible, and that's why I wasn't making it like a discount coupon, but
Right.
yeah.
Which is what it is, though. And when you really look at it, so what this means, oh, this the only thing I can do with this is if I choose to give them $5,000, I can give them this and $4,500.
Right,
So
right.
it's not really, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. So that's not
Yeah,
so
like the way we use the gift card, like with restaurant example, if you give somebody a $20 gift card, that is essentially the hard cost or the real cost on somebody coming would be, probably $5 of food costs, and what the real hard cost would be to give somebody a $20 gift card, because you've already got the restaurant's already open, the staff are already there, the building is already accounted for, the only real incremental cost is the food cost, right? So when we say it, having somebody, it's so much better than seems so much more generous than what 20% off
right.
coupon or a buy one get one type of thing, where you're basically hedging your bets and saying, you give me $20 and I'll give you $20,
Right.
that you buy a $20 entree and I'll give you a $20
Right.
entree. It's not.
So we're going to have this booth for 2 days.
Yeah,
So there's going to be a ton of foot traffic. What if we're not going to do that? What ideas do you have?
I would say, when is it?
It's the last Saturday and Sunday in August, so it's like in 3 weeks.
Okay. So I would say, do you have anything like that, like a book about coming to America or staying here or getting your family here? Like, I think that those things would be the placeholders. Like, you want to start with where people are, that it's, you want to them, what's the outermost ring of, in the concentric circles of somebody, you've got 100,000 people coming to the festival or whatever. What did you call it? Is it a festival? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got 100,000 people walking through the grounds. Some number of those, if we take what are the status of the people, some number of them are just, like you said, people who like foreign foods or who like, things. Some of them are citizens who've already gone through the process. Some of them are here on a green card. Some of them are here on a visa. And some of them have family who would love to come, or maybe they're visiting here. When you really start to think about what's the reality of who's in that audience of 100,000 people, right? And what we really want to do is identify, we want to turn sort of invisible and anonymous prospects into visible prospects. And you could do that at the interest level rather than the commitment level. And so getting a golden ticket is something that we would include with whatever information thing that you're going to do.
We have that. We did a second book. It was called Bring Them Here. So that was
Bring
about
them here. Yeah. So staying here, bring them here, that's a really good thing. So if I think if you were to start with that process, that might be
good.
that might be a big win, because if you had
postcards that were done up with the cover of the book and a QR code that people could, or a card that they could fill out on the back, just leave their name and stuff. Often where people in is this festival, people have paid to be there? Is it like no, okay, so they're not like a conference where they're walking around with a lanyard or anything, right? Like you go to a trade show and you can scan their
Right.
QR code or whatever for info. So you'd have to kind of create that opportunity, where you've got not the book, you don't have the book there with them, but you've got a postcard with the cover of the book and the title and a QR code or the URL to go and get it, or they could just fill out the form right there while they're there. That's what I would be looking for, is how many names and emails could I get for those things. That's what I would be looking at. Then the golden ticket is really, I would reserve that for referrals, for people who you're after unit or during unit, for people to give to their family and friends in along with the information.
Right.
Great stuff as always, Dean. You're brilliant. I thank you so much.
I think this is I get inspired every time I talk with you, so how much opportunity you have,
Well, I remember how excited you were when I first said that word matter, and you're like, yeah, matters. That's what lawyers care about, matters. And then, I mean, you're totally dialed in on all the stuff that we're doing, and I appreciate it. I mean, I think that thinking of an after unit as its own separate thing. I mean, I don't think most people have the resource. I mean, for us, it's so easy to get fixated on the new people on the top of the funnel, and it's so easy to get fixated on doing the actual legal work.
Yeah.
That by the time you get someone done, you're just sort of glad to close the matter.
Yeah.
And then hopefully 3 years.
And then you're on to the next, because the before unit's pumping and bringing new people in. I think, it would be amazing if our next, 5 years from now, our next episode is, boy, the biggest gift you gave us, Dean, was helping us demarcate the during unit and the after unit and make that a separate thing, and thinking about multiplying our matters.
We're going to start on Monday.
Yeah.
We start on Monday. It's great.
Like, I think that matter multiplier index, the MMI, could be a really good thing for you, because once you bring awareness to something, it kind of builds momentum. Once you kind of know, once you have an awareness of something and an awareness of what knobs and dials affect that number, you start looking for those opportunities. And I think everybody should graduate from the during unit with a fully in your CRM outlined, like, next steps. And I think if you think about how you would access that information, if you think about really thoughtfully preparing the standardized client profile, that you say, like, the country that they're from, the city that they came from, their age, how are they married, their marital status, their children, or any mentioned family that is going to be they're going to bring over here, or if they're on a visa, their intention to seek citizenship and where they are at that level. I mean, what percentage of people that you open a visa matter are intending on going all the way through to citizenship?
85.
Yeah. So you look at that, other than some students or people are just here for a short period of time, and then they're going to soak up their education, get some experience, and then go back to, maybe they're going to be a doctor or something, and their heart is to go back and serve their community, their people. Yeah. And that, celebrating that too is everything. There's so many noble things that are worthy of featuring, in that kind of thing. And that's very exciting.
It's great stuff. Thanks, Dean.
I love it. It's always exciting.
Thanks so much.
I thank you for being the first in the video format. So we'll see how this goes. Being able to look at you when we're having the conversation.
Sure. Yep. Thank you, brother. Have a good day.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah. Thanks, Dean.